You know, sometimes when you've got to do something, things happen. Quite often when I've had to sing in the church, and as soon as do I say I'm going to do it, then I feel some sort of thing in my throat. You know. I knew I had to do the sermon today, and just last Saturday, as I was having my lunch over at Brother Lynn's place, actually, I felt something go wrong in the one of my bottom tooth. I thought, oh, what's that? And as the time went on, it got worse. It started to really annoy me. The teeth down there were sensitive, and it was getting sore. And I thought, what can I do? Well, there's a couple of alternatives. I could have let it get sorer and sorer, and then at Saturday morning I could have rung up Lynn and say, look, I can't be here. But I thought that's not the thing to do. So on Thursday, I ran down to just because it was getting pretty bad, I went down to the dentist, and unlike Karina, she had to go on. I remember there was a situation with teeth with Karina. But I got down there and made an appointment for the following day, Friday. And when I went there, it was, you know, I haven't been to the dentist for a while, about 8-9 years, I guess. And as I was sitting there, they lie you down you're very comfortable, they lie you straight down and you're lying on your back virtually. And you look up and they put these dark glasses on you, and you look up and there's a television set. And then down comes the lights. I tell you, I didn't see much of that television set, because what happened? Into your mouth go blocks that keep your mouth open. Then down comes the dentist with a little magnifying glass and checks things out, poking and driving. Apparently a filling had come out, and it was probably affecting the nerve. And you see, then it started. Mouth wide open, blocks stuck in it. Then comes the drill. You know that drill? It's really going at tremendous power and really quickly. And now, apart from that, there's another lady on the other side sticking a sucker in your mouth, which sucks everything out of your mouth, and you've got your mouth open. And then the drill comes along and you're wondering, where's my tongue? Trying to keep your tongue out of the way of that. And there it goes. Oh, I was so glad when it was finished. But it made me feel so much better. I'm glad I'm not putting up with that problem I had in my mouth. It's great to be here today. This is my church and I love it dearly. And I love all those in it. And I'm really glad to be here today. Some of the songs we sang just earlier were about being with Jesus, being with him. The story we're going to look at today, certainly Jesus was right there for that. In the second chapter of Daniel, we find the story of King Nebuchadnezzar. He had a dream, you all remember. He had this dream, and he was being a bit, you might say, nasty. He wanted to know what the interpretation of the dream was, but he's saying, no. He knew that if he just said, I had a dream, I told them what the dream was, that the wise men, the Chaldeans and all the wise men there would come up with a solution. So what did he do? He said, you've got to tell me what the dream was. Tell me what the dream was. Then give me the interpretation. Of course, the Chaldeans, they said, how can we do that? How do we know what the dream is? And they were in a bit. And Nebuchadnezzar, in those days, the king was the most powerful. Whatever he said happened. If he was to say, you die, you die. And that's exactly what he did. He said that they would be all put to death if they didn't come up with the reason. We all know the story how Daniel came along. And Daniel didn't say, I can tell you the dream. He didn't say, don't worry, king, I'll get you the interpretation. No, he said, our God, the great God of the Hebrews, he will give you to me the interpretation. And that's what happened, and we know the story, how Daniel witnessed to the king, how he told the king the interpretation. You know, he was so excited, the king was. And what did he do? Let's just have a look here in Daniel 2. Daniel 2, verse 46 to 48. And the king was so pleased that Daniel had done this for him. The king Nebuchadnezzar fell on his face, prostrate before Daniel, and commanded that they should present an offering and incense to him. The king answered Daniel and said, "Truly your God is a God of gods, the Lord of kings, and a revealer of secrets, since you could reveal this secret." Then king promoted Daniel and gave him many gifts and made him ruler over the whole province. Yes, and Daniel asked, could his friends Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego also be given some sort of a job in the kingdom? And this was allowed. Yes, Nebuchadnezzar was very, very happy. And for a time, no doubt, he commanded that everyone in the province of Babylonia should worship this wonderful God of the Hebrews. It seemed for a while that the king respected the power of the great God of the Hebrew captives. But for how long? How long? The head of gold, of which Nebuchadnezzar was to be the fulfillment, caused the king a great deal of concern. Was he not the glorious monarch of all Babylonia? Did he not have plans for expansion of his empire? An empire so vast, so powerful, it would never be surpassed or supplanted. The pride of Nebuchadnezzar came in. He would show Daniel, and he'd show this Daniel's God, that there would be no successor to the golden kingdom of Babylon. There would be no silver kingdom. There'd be no bronze kingdom. Certainly wouldn't be any kingdom of iron. No, his golden kingdom was going to last forever. You know, there'd been some time past since the chapter 2 where he had the dream. Some say, or some people have worked it out, it was possibly about 18 years. After God had revealed to him through Daniel the dream and the interpretation, the king had even worshipped God for a while. He'd even worshipped this great God, announcing to all the kingdom of Babylon that truly the Hebrews' God is therefore the God of the King of Kings, the revealer of secrets. It seemed after some time, though, pride started to set in. He thought about what he'd done. While he had been in charge, while he had been the king in Babylonia, most of the great things had been done. He'd done most of the captives, most of the triumphs over other people. He'd captured these captives and brought them here. He had the great hanging gardens, one of the 7 wonders of the world. This place be taken over? This wonderful kingdom? How could it be taken over by another, even inferior nation? Then the idea came to him, and he thought to himself, I wonder why it took so long. He decided he'd make a towering image. Just like in the dream, only it was different. It would be about 100 feet or 30 metres high. It'd be about 10 feet wide, 3 metres wide, and it would be not of part gold, part silver. No. He was going to make it fully gold, completely gold. You know, when he made this, he had two purposes, really. The first purpose was that he'd make this great golden statue and dedicate it to their god, the god Bel. Soon did he forget the greatness of the God of the Hebrews. And then more of the pride of himself came in. And also, it would be recognition of himself. Yes, he was going to make sure there was going to be a great celebration, a wonderful celebration. People would gather on the great plain of Dura. There was some doubt about the site of this place. Some people say that where it was somewhere near the oil fields, not too far from Babylon. But there is a place about 20 kilometres south-southwest of a town called Hilla, where a lot of archaeologists may believe that this might have been the place where this took place. Here there are some curious mounds called Tola, or the Mounds of Dura, but there's one particular mound known as El Mokhatat. Now this mound, this is a structure, some 45 feet square and some 20 feet high. It could well have been the pedestal on which this giant statue was placed. It'd be very interesting to go there and see this particular pedestal, if it was, but it's very dangerous to go to this place, I'd say. The time and the day dawned. You could imagine it all. Invitations went out. Well, maybe not invitations, maybe just royal commands. Be there. No mention about the common people. No, the list in the Bible tell us that they were mainly appointed the satraps, prefects, governors, high-ranking military personnel, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials were assembled before the great image. Then came the moment the king had been waiting for. The trumpet sounded. You could just imagine. The hush fell over the concourse of the dignitaries. The grand announcement went forth by the herald. He arose and probably saying, His Imperial Majesty King Nebuchadnezzar commands that when the instruments sound, every man present shall fall down and worship before this image. There were to be no exceptions. Failure to obey would mean instant consignment to the blazing fiery furnace. Here he had already had this furnace put in place. He knew when he asked the questions, people might think, well, do I really want to bow down to this image? But here, right before them, here was the punishment, right there. The intensity of the furnace was there for all to see. Certainly, they would prostrate themselves before the image. Certainly, they would grovel and worship before it. Sure, they would humour the king's whim. They would fling themselves to the earth in an act of loyalty and devotion. Certainly, they would do anything to avoid that terrible, terrible furnace. And as we read and turn and look in 3 and just start to read from verse 8 onwards, we hear what actually happened. Therefore, at that time, it says, certain Chaldeans came forward and accused the Jews. They said to the king, Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. And this is what they said to him. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, the flute, the harp, the lyre, the psaltery, the symphony, which all kinds of music shall fall down and worship the golden image. And who does not fall down and worship shall be cast in the midst of the burning furnace. It seems there were 3 young men present on this occasion. Their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were probably feeling rather uncomfortable as they stood there. They had come to see some sort of dedication. They thought that, this was just a dedication. No one said about anyone worshipping this image. It was not supposed to be. They thought it was a kind of dedication. A mild panic seized them, I guess. They had not anticipated this, but panic soon gave way to calmness, a calmness of spirit. And this was based on the great faith in their God. They had grim determination to see the matter through. They lost all fear, knowing that God would be with them. The consequences did not matter to them. No, it didn't matter. Let these Babylonians, any of them, let them prostrate themselves before this monstrosity if they wanted to. But as for them, they would not. They could not. In all their consciousness, and that was that. They made the decision. Everyone, even the musicians and the guards, everybody, all those invited were laying prostrate. The king might not have even noticed them really. But as they stood there, they must have had the greatest view all around because they were the only ones standing. They mightn't have even been noticed. But we read that in the certain Chaldeans went before the king. They weren't going to let it be unnoticed. Even though the king might not have noticed the three Hebrews not bowing, but that was soon brought to their attention. These astrologers were probably among those whose lives had been in the balance back in chapter 2. When the matter of the king's dream was being talked about, was in discussion, and Daniel had stepped in and actually saved their lives. They had smarted for years over this. They had smarted over it. They didn't appreciate what Daniel had done. They were just, hatred was in their heart. Because they were made fools of, were they not? They were made fools of. Here was their chance to get back on these Hebrews. Because there was no gratitude in their minds, just hatred for what they'd done. Now they could give these Hebrews a little thank you gesture. And they did. They told the king what was going on. The Chaldeans achieved their objective. The king was furious. He sent for the Hebrew dissidents, and he saw it as being a sort of a mutiny. This wasn't going to happen. It was a challenge which must be met with the sternest of measures. This was open rebellion, he thought. Moreover, it was blasphemy against his favourite god, the god of Bel. But he liked these young Hebrews. He liked them. They had spirit. They had convictions. They were efficient administrators in the jobs that they were given. They were honest with money, his money, which was more than he could say for some of his own countrymen. He was loath to destroy them. So he determined to keep his anger under control, at least for as long as it took to give them another chance. Surely, if given another chance, they would bow down before the image. When the Hebrews were brought before him, he reminded them of the furnace. He showed them, you have no other choice. It's either bow down or you must go into the fiery furnace. And then he added rather cynically, after the experience he had in chapter 2, he seemed to forget about that experience. He added rather cynically, if you don't do it, and then he added cynically, and who is the God who will deliver you from my hands. Wow. This was the God that had honoured him with a dream, graciously granted the interpretation that God had made known the history of the world to him. He was his creator, his provider. He honoured him with the rulership of the first world empire. Yet he said, who is that God who will deliver you? The Hebrews reply. Let's read it, shall we? Daniel 3, 16 to 18. This is their reply, and what a reply it was. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If that is the case, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us from your hand, O king. But if not, let it be known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, nor will we worship the golden image which you have set up. Can you imagine this situation? Could you imagine it? One of the Christian commentators, his name Barnes, he wrote something on this. And this is what he wrote. It said, this is the religion of principle. And when we consider the circumstances of those who made this reply, when we remember their comparative youth and the few opportunities which they had for instruction in the nature of religion, and that they were captives in a distant land, and that they stood before the most absolute monarch of the earth, with no powerful friends to support them, and with the most horrid kind of death threatening them, we may well admire the grace of that God who could so amply furnish them for such a trial, and love that religion which enabled them to take a stand so noble and so brave. Yes, when we think about what they did, we can ask ourselves the question, would we have been able to do it? Would we have just, we'll just kneel down. No one will notice. Everyone's kneeling. Quickly kneel down. Fall on our face. We don't need to really let anyone know. But no, so close were they to their God that they couldn't do that. Of course, we know the king's attitude changed. He ordered the 3 young men be bound and ordered the fire be heated up 7 times. And of course, we know what happened. He ordered these strong soldiers to take them to this furnace and then throw them in. And that's what they did. And those men didn't survive. Those men died. Such was the perilous heat. But here was another miracle before this king. Another miracle presented itself. The shackles were burnt off from their hands and their feet. And as they walked freely in the fire, the king noticed. Surely, he said, wasn't there only 3 men in the fire? But now I see a 4th man walking. And this is what he said. And the 4th man is like the Son of God. The same Christ who appeared to Adam and Eve, who walked with Enoch, talked with Noah, who wrestled with Jacob and feasted with Abraham, who appeared to Moses in the burning bush and to Joshua in the walls of Jericho, again stepped from the heavenly portals and entered the fiery furnace to secure and support his faithful followers. The form of the 4th is always in the midst of his holy people. Christ knows the travail through which any martyr passes. By implication, he is present with every suffering saint who passes through the fires of affliction, whether these fires be physical, mental, moral, financial, domestic, or any other kind. The power of a Christian witness must never be underestimated. Every Christian should bear the impression of Christ in their life and personality. The king recognised the Son of God in the furnace because of this reason. The Hebrew captives, filling position of trust in Babylon, had a life and character represented before him the truth, and plainly and simply they had presented the principles of righteousness to all around, to the king, to anyone with whom they came in contact. They had told of the Christ, the Redeemer, to come, and in the form of the fourth, in the midst of the fire, because of the witness of these Hebrews, because of what they'd done, because the way they didn't hide their light under a bushel. You remember, they were tested. They took a big chance and convinced those that were testing them that, yes, their way was the right way. The health message was the right way for them. They became the best in thinking powers, and I'm sure in every other way. Yes, because of their witness, the king, the question is sometimes asked, how would the king have known that it was the God? How would they have known it was the Son of God? Jesus had not come. But there was a witness. And these people had witnessed to him. And he knew. And when he saw them, the man, he knew that. He knew that God was the one in there with them, the Son of God. You know, in 2 Corinthians 13:8 it says, it's only a short verse, but when you read it, sometimes you read it first and you might really know what it says, but it says, we can do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. The truth is there. We can do nothing against it. It's there, it's the Word of God. We might sometimes be a bad example to those around about us, but we still don't do anything against the truth. We don't damage the Word of God. We just are unfaithful to it. But we can do plenty for the truth. That's what that verse is saying. We cannot do nothing against the truth, but for the truth. And that's exactly what the three Hebrews had done. I'm going to turn to Isaiah 43 now, because there's a passage here of Isaiah 43. And I'm just going to read one verse there, because it just tells us about what God really wants to do us. Verse 2, and he's talking to Israel, and he's giving a promise to Israel. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the waters, they shall not overflow you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, nor shall the flame scorch you. This is the promise that he made to Israel. And it's the promise he gives to us today, to all those who want to stand up for him. That promise, same promises, are there. Whether we recognise it or not, everyone faces the same alternatives as did the three Hebrews: the worship of God or the worship of idols. Now, we are not forced today to bow down before any giant idol with a monarch and a king, all powerful, ready to give us a sentence of death if we don't bow down. No. The idols of the day may not be images of gold, but they may be all sorts of things. There are many idols that we can fall to social position, our work, wealth and its attendant luxury and power, sport. That's a big one. And that's a big one that I've got to think about. Our children. We love them, of course. House and home. Pleasure. The pleasures that we can have, including that insidious time waster, the box, which is the centrepiece of so many homes and has been the centrepiece of my home. It's easy to spend many wasteful hours sitting before it. It's a sort of an idol. It mesmerises so many. Money, that can be an idol. Ambition, that can be an idol. All these things can be in our face. No one can escape the modern day idols. Many do not try to escape. And I've been through that. I've been that where I see these things before me and I think, well, what do you want me to do? Do the other thing? Do you want me to be reading my Bible all the time? This is the way I used to think. Should I be reading my Bible all the time instead of doing these pleasurable things which are right in front of me? God still needs people with character and purpose to stand up for him. And he needs it today. We can learn so much from these three young Hebrews of Daniel 3. They stood up for what they believed against the mighty power, the ruler of the world, Nebuchadnezzar. Undaunted, they made it known that even if death prevailed against them, they trusted and believed in the God of heaven. Today, we do not have to face the fiery furnace for what we believe. Today, we don't have to face that fiery furnace. But there will come days, for some, these days are not yet upon us, where trust in our God, based on a steadfast walk with him, just like the young Hebrews, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, God will walk with us. Sure, there's going to be trials in our life. Sure, we have them every day now. Life is not a bed of roses. We have things put before us. Satan is working like a roaring lion. We know this. And he's putting these things in front of us every day. But there will come a time, like I said, this time is not upon us, when if we are still alive, there will be some that will be alive. It just depends on how long the Lord's return. But we know that times are going to get tough for those who want to stand up for God. And the story of Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego can give us hope when these times come. You know, in Psalms 91, what a wonderful chapter that is. Just to read it gives you hope, gives you comfort that God ultimately is going to be with you. Just part of it. He has set his love upon me. Therefore, I will deliver him. I will set him on high because he has known my name. With love, with long life will I satisfy him and show him my salvation. Wow, what a wonderful God he is. He's there, ready for us, no matter how many times we turn our back on him. And when times get tough, that's when he's going to be there walking with us. And he reminds us every day that through studying his word and through talking to him, that we will get to know him. And then he will walk with us right through our life until the time comes when we see him face to face. We all look forward to that time. There's a little poem that reminds me of how life is with us, how we can have a lot of idols in our way, how we can get up and not think about things. How we can get up and just go upon our way. And it sort of goes like this. When day was done, I knelt to pray and prayed, "O Lord, bless everyone. Lift from the saddened heart the pain and let the sick be well again." And then I rose another day, went carelessly on my way. The whole day long I did not try to wipe a teardrop from any eye. I did not help to share the load of any brother on the road. I did not even go to see the sick man right next door to me. And yet, when day was done, I knelt to pray and prayed, "O Lord, bless everyone. Lift from the saddened heart the pain and let the sick be well again." And as I prayed into my ear, there came a voice that whispered clear, "Course, hypocrite, whom have you tried to bless today? Don't you know God's greatest gifts come by those who serve him here below?" And then I hid my face and cried, "Forgive me, Lord, for I have lied. Just let me live to see another day, and I will live just as I pray. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him," he says. "I will set him on high because he has known my name. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation." I know that each and every one of us here today is longing for the time when they can see their dear Lord. Not only will they be able to walk with him, but they'll be able to talk with him. What a wonderful experience that will be. Can you imagine it? Can you imagine talking face to face with Jesus? It makes me get upset to think about it, because it's just going to be so wonderful. Talking to him about what he did for us. Talking to him about how he knows us, and he does know us. And when he comes in the clouds of heaven, as Lynn said in the lesson today, wouldn't it be terrible to hear those words, "I never knew you"? Wouldn't it be terrible? We should get to know God every day. And when we pray, we should tell him, "Lord, I want to know you," so that when you come, you won't say these words to me. But we won't hear those words. We'll hear the words, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Enter thou into the joy of your Lord." What wonderful words they will be. That is my prayer today, in Jesus' name.